Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nick Pettis, and I'm here with Eddie Landeros, Jesus Alcala, and Castin Chamberlain. So we're going to talk about video games today. That's fun and exciting. So who'd like to share their favorite childhood video game first?
All right, so my favorite video game, uh, it's hard to choose from this, but this one of them. It's The Last of Us, specifically The Last of Us Part 2. I really love the Naughty Dog video game company. I've been playing their games since Crash Bandicoot in the 90s, and with The Last of Us Part 2, that was just like their crowning jewel. There's a lot of it centered around violence, which normally I would be against because it's like if it's senseless violence, you're not really learning anything. But there's an overwhelming amount of violence in this that it makes you really like a pacifist in a sense, where you just like you didn't want to see it anymore, and it was just it was sending a message in that way as an anti-violence message. But also behind that, there's this complex story with a lead female character who is also just conflicted with being a teenager and loss and grief, and then this is a post-apocalyptic story, so it kind of resembles the pandemic in a weird way, so just a lot of feelings involved, and I cried at the end of it. Like there's just like you just feel empty, and maybe that's a bad way to say like this is my favorite game of all time, but I learned so many lessons from it back in July, and then like since then, I've been basing like the way I live or the way that I spread, love and happiness to people through that game and that video game company. So yeah, just really really fortunate to have played that. I've met the developers who like were really super cool, and it was a great experience. So Last of Us Part 2, my favorite game of all time.
That's pretty cool, Eddie. Thanks for sharing. Alright, how about we jump down to Cassin? How about you, Cass? What's your favorite game?
So I was gonna share Animal Crossing, but it's not Animal Crossing. But it's actually The Sims 2. It's one of the first PC Sims games. It's the second Sims game for PC, and it's just my oldest brother passed away when I was 12, and that was his favorite game, and he passed it on to me while he was alive, and I kept playing it. I still play it to this day. I have it on my MacBook, actually. I play it all the time. But that game's just been very nostalgic to me and a way for me to like channel how I feel, and I've almost grown attachment to the Sims I've made over the years just because they're just these virtual people that have always been around. Like my brother passed away, but these Sims don't die. If you use the cheats to not make them age anyway. But it's just been a game that's always been constant in my life. And like even in The Sims 4, it's similar feelings because the game is still developing and there's still new packs and there's always new news coming out for it. So it's always been a way for me to be constant and up with the times, but still playing a game that I love so much. So that's my answer.
Oh, I know that was hard for you to share, but thank you, Cass. It's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I love The Sims. That was one of my favorite games too.
Yeah.
Learn a lot.
Yep.
They were some cool games, yeah. Shall we jump back to Jesus, or should I go?
I can go now.
Alright, go ahead, Jesus.
So, my favorite childhood video game was Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and it was mainly for that sea exploration. It was very controversial when it came out about the art style and the fact that you had to use a boat to get to various islands. But for me, those were all positive points. The it's the most. It was one of the most colorful creations of Zelda, and now the newest one, Breath of the Wild, and the remake of Link's Awakening, both maintain that colorful art style. So that won in the end. Uh, and the other thing was that because it was so cartoonish, Link made the greatest faces in that game. the, it's beyond memes. Where you can find any emotion that Link's ever made probably came from Wind Waker, and because in all the other ones he's a lot more stoic, but they really went into that cartoonish style, just gave him such a wide range of facial expressions. As for the sea exploration, it was just a pleasure just to get on that boat and set off to sail. Recently, I've gotten that pleasure from games like Sea of Thieves, but the Wind Waker was much older than Sea of Thieves, and that was where I really enjoyed the seafaring. Just going on the boat while the song "The Great Sea" plays in the background. One of my favorite music tracks as well. And I actually really enjoy playing that song whenever there's a road trip with my friends. Uh, we usually play music tracks from video games, and I always choose The Great Sea as part of the playlist. And so that for all those reasons, I think Wind Waker is my favorite game of that from my childhood.
That's awesome, actually. Yeah. So, my favorite games are the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl for the Nintendo DS. And the reason I like those is because those are the games that got me into the Pokemon franchise in the first place. The story is amazing, and the music they play is just on point. And it's very intimidating when you get to the champion battle. Oh, her music is evil. I will play a little bit later, but they made me fall in love with the Pokemon games in general. And I'm so looking forward to seeing what Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl bring to the table for those games. Yeah, they're going to be coming out either this year or next year, so I can't wait to play it.
That's cool. What was your favorite Pokemon from that game?
Okay, so my favorite from those games were I always chose the starters that match my personality, and I always chose the grass type starters because I thought they were the coolest out of all of them. So my favorite has to be Torterra. When it's fully evolved, it's like this giant turtle with the entire forest on its back. So that's actually
That's
pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
But I have to say my favorite legendary from that series is Giratina. It's just so intimidating and so cool. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to ask a couple questions to Jesus and Castin too about their games. Jesus, let's go to Wind Waker. What was your favorite level in Wind Waker? Was it one of the first three or one of the Triforce pieces?
Favorite level was probably Tower of the Gods.
Yeah, Tower of the Gods.
It's because one thing I really like is the idea that what the magic of a civilization is actually just really high tech, and the Tower of Gods exemplify that, where it shows you that the turrets you that you see in other games and whatnot, and some enemies that you may see in other games, that they have circuits, and they have lights and neon. They're robots, and I just thought that was so cool. And the whole Tower of God, the Tower of the Gods itself is just a giant it's a giant tower full of circuitry, and so the dungeon part of it is that you're like deactivating the security system. So I just thought that was such a cool thing, and they do that in future games as well, like Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild also has it, where it mixes that magic with that ancient tech.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that, and it seems like they get some inspiration with Studio Ghibli with their movies, if you're familiar with those, because they have like the nature mixed with the ancient technology, and I really like that about the Wind Waker series and Breath of the Wild. And with Tower of the Gods, that boss battle with the ghosts, those are always interesting. Cool. Castin, for The Sims 2, what styles were you usually going? Like, because whenever I play that game, I would always like buy a bunch of furniture and just try and like rearrange stuff. And you being an Animal Crossing fan, I can definitely tell that you would be an interior decorator. So, what would you design in Sims 2 for your houses?
They were very farmhouse themed. Like I always just love that. As a little kid, I was always like, oh, I'm just gonna make it like suburban, like like a mom style thing, because that's what I used to be. I used to really want to be a mom when I was little, especially when I played The Sims. I would always try to be like, oh, this is where my family's gonna eat dinner and sit every night. And so it was just really suburban and family style and stuff like that.
That's really cool. Did you ever run into any problems or make your Sims purposefully run into problems in your games?
Surprisingly, no. Because I know most people did, but I always really cared about my Sims, and if like they got too old and passed away, I used to cry. So I was a very different Sims player. So yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I've had some friends where they're just like, oh, I'm gonna lock them in a room with like no windows or bathrooms or anything. It's so terrible.
I've never done that.
That's good to hear. Hello. All right, back to Nick. I got a question for you about Pokemon. Did Pokemon make you more empathetic or sympathetic towards animals? Would you say that you love animals partially because of Pokemon?
Well, I always fell in love with animals even before playing Pokemon, but yeah, I gotta say it does help a little bit. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I remember watching Pokemon or playing Pokemon, and I would just think like, oh, that's cool, like, and thinking about the animals in real life, like, oh, what if that would be like that Pokemon shot electricity or something like that? It always had my imagination running wild with it. So I wonder that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Castin. Oh, go ahead, Aziz.
I take some issue with that question because in Pokemon we send out the Pokemon to fight other Pokemon. I don't know if that would actually make us more sympathetic when the whole job of your character is to beat up other people's pets.
That's a good point.
If I could explain what I think Eddie is trying to say is when we take care of our own, did it make me feel more passionate? And yes, it did actually.
I do agree with Jesus in that sense, and that's kind of why I asked that question, is because it could go either way, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna use my dog to fight my battles with other dogs. But what I liked about Pokemon was that it was always like the bond, the friendship, and even though like they had the battles, it was like they lived to see another day, and and the trainers cared about their Pokemon. They didn't necessarily like just say like, well, they had some instances I think with some of the bad characters, but it was a lesson to be like, don't treat your Pokemon like trash because they're your friends.
Exactly. And they're not gone forever. There are Pokemon centers to help.
Right. Castin, did you have something to say?
Is it the like slogan to Pokemon not beat them all but catch them all? Just saying, like you're supposed to catch them. You're not supposed to technically beat them. You're supposed to catch them.
That's true.
True.
There's collectors. Like and
I'm a
Ash is just
collector.
and Ash is just trying to fit. Well, never mind. He is trying to do everything. He's trying to get
He's
everyone
trying
in
to
the
become
Pokedex.
the best.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna.
Oh, go ahead, Castin.
Did y'all ever see the Pokemon movie?
Which
Yes.
The scene when Ash passes away and oh my goodness, Pikachu is like Pikachu. Have you guys seen that scene?
Yes.
Yeah, you're talking about the first film.
one? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes me cry every single time.
Yeah.
Multiple times. I own the VHSs, the VHS cassettes for those, for like the
Nice.
first 4 films, I would say.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I watched them over and over again. Yeah.
Did any of you ever go into the movie theaters for the Pokemon movie? Like when I think it was Pokemon 2000 when it came out. If you went to the theater, they had like these gold-plated cards that you would get, and like it was like a trading card, but it would be special. It would have Mew or Mewtwo or Pikachu, and it had I think like Japanese characters on it too. But those are really cool. I remember going to the movie theaters and like I didn't know that they were doing this, but when we got the tickets, my mom's like, "Oh, here you go. They're giving you this," and it was like the gold-plated card. I'm like, "What?" I wish they still did stuff like that.
While we're on the topic, I actually pulled up some of the cool, intimidating music that I would like to share with you all. Let me know if you can hear it.
Yep.
So even though I've never got to that point, that music has always struck fear in me. But I love it so much. Yeah, these games always had the best music out of the entire franchise.
Yeah, that was really intense. Why would you say you love it if it strikes fear in you?
It's just so powerful a piece, you know?
Right.
And I've always loved the music that these games had. I've always loved music in general. So it's actually the piece I love the most out of these games because it's a powerful piece.
Makes sense. Yeah, I would agree with that. Go ahead, Jesus.
Oh, I was just gonna answer your question from before that. No, I didn't watch them in theaters. Only VHS.
Nice.
Only through Netflix. I'm young. They didn't have any of the Pokemon movies in the theaters at the time I was growing up.
That's funny. But cool. Yeah, no, I love Pokemon music. So, and I to be honest, I never really played too much of the handhelds. My yeah, like my friends would play and I would just watch them. My cousin had a Game Boy, so I would just watch him play like a whole bunch of video games on there. But I was also mostly a console player. But I would always hear the Pokemon music in the background because my friends would play it, and I loved it so much.
Yeah. And didn't you say you liked it was the original Snap, yeah?
Yeah, and I just saw that the new one came out, Pokemon Snap. But I used to play the original Pokemon Snap all the time, and that music, yeah, that's very nostalgic to me. Um, but I love photography. I love taking pictures, and that game kind of helped me with that as well, because especially when it comes to animals, because like you have to get it at the right moment. You know, you're on this like tour, and the Pokemon only come at certain times, and then you could throw fruit or certain items to get them to do different things, get those pictures. I loved it. I love that game so much. So I'm excited to play the new one.
Yeah. I look forward to checking out the new one as well. I didn't even try the originals, but the trailer for the new one got me hooked.
Yeah. Jesus, what's your favorite Pokemon? Game or actual Pokemon?
Well, for game, it'd be Ruby and Sapphire. Well, and Emerald, I guess, in that case. Yeah, the Hoenn journey. That was my favorite one. For Pokemon, I think it's probably going to be Flygon. It's
Flygon.
yeah, it's like an overgrown dragonfly.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, I'd probably say that one. On topic of favorites though, I did want to ask Nick, what's his favorite Pokemon trainer?
Ooh, you asked the tough one right off the bat. Okay, so you guys know that Sinnoh is my favorite. I cannot say it enough. But my favorite trainer has to be Cynthia because of her music background and the fact that she has little to no weaknesses at all is actually pretty cool how she's so powerful. She's the toughest champion in the franchise, even. So yeah, Cynthia's my favorite. How about you, Jesus, since you're gonna ask me that?
It's it is actually Cynthia as well. Just pretty much the same reason. She's just such a tough character, as well as having the toughest Pokemon in the series. Yeah, her Garchomp was absolutely ridiculous in the game.
Definitely. And the possible fact that Mega Evolution could come back to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, we're going to get totally swept by her one card.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll make any gameplay adjustments, because they did make her team very tough. So I wonder if they're gonna keep it that tough or if they're gonna change things up.
I hope they keep it that tough. I want to get to her and battle her as hard as she was, even though I never made it in the original games. How about you, Eddie? Favorite trainer and why?
I would have to go with Misty, the leader of the Cerulean Gym, the gym leader, because I'm a fan of the original Pokemon series. I mean, I grew up on that, and with Misty, it was like I just loved her character. She was just so spunky, and also it was just one of the main trio. And also, I love water Pokemon, so naturally, it's like with Staryu and Starmie, and just seeing her character develop, and also like just like the back and forth between her and Ash. I just really loved it. So yeah, Misty for sure.
All right, all right. That's pretty cool, actually. I had the chance to battle her when I played Let's Go Eevee all the way through. But yeah, I can see why you like her so much.
Yep.
Definitely. So I'm going to wrap this up here by saying thank you for joining us, Eddie and Jesus, and Castin, who had to leave because of class. So thank you guys for joining me and talking about video games. And we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.